Hi guys, we're here today at Power Pilates UK with Korin in the next edition of our recovery series. We're going to talk about Reformer and learn a lot about it. I think we've just done a class which was incredible, and we're going to get stuck in and understand a little bit more about it. So Korin, I think first of all let's start with what is Reformer Pilates?
Okay, well this is a Reformer. It was invented by a man called Joseph Pilates, who obviously invented Pilates. He actually created the Reformer machine. Well, the original idea came from a hospital bed. So he used to train soldiers back in the war, and he used straps and pulleys because they obviously couldn't move out of bed. And that's where the actual idea for the Reformer machine derived. And then he created lots of different apparatus. But the Reformer machine, I would say, is one of the most popular pieces just because it's so versatile. I mean, you've done a class today. You've seen all the movements, all the variations that you can do. You can do standing exercises, side lying. We use props and things here as well. But it's essentially a bed-like machine, as you can see. And we've got springs, different spring tensions, which offer assistance, but offer strength as well, strength training. So, yeah, this is the Reformer machine. You just experienced it. What did you think?
So one of the things I really liked about it is the strength and flexibility, because you get a bit of both. So, but I also just for someone who maybe doesn't have much experience, what's the big difference between like yoga and Pilates? And
oh my God, that's like the number one question. What's the difference between yoga? So yoga, obviously you do yoga only on a mat. You can do mat work Pilates as well, of course. But yoga is a lot more, well, it can be spiritual as well, whereas Pilates is not spiritual at all. It's kind of more about holding poses, holding stretches, whereas, yes, we get the flexibility side, as you've just seen, doing Pilates as well. But there's movement within the exercises, so you're stretching and strengthening at the same time. The dynamic stretches rather than held poses. A lot of the times I'd say that's kind of one of the biggest differences, but quite a lot.
Because it feels more complementary to like actually doing like sports and other exercise, doing this.
Yeah.
You kind of work up a bit of sweat, and that might not be scientifically accurate, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. Like I say, there's lots of different kinds of Pilates. You can definitely go to Pilates classes where they're a lot slower paced, and they really take their time between each exercise. And because we moved at the exercises themselves are always done with control. As you can see, I was kind of telling you to slow down and do things, mindful movements where you're really connecting your breath to your pelvic floor. We talked about pelvic floor a lot as well, which I'm sure you probably don't think about when you're exercising normally.
Don't think about it a lot, no.
I'm sure you don't. Not many men do, but even in Pilates, men have to think about their pelvic floor. Everybody thinks about their pelvic floor because that is where everything comes from.
And what are the biggest benefits? Say to somebody, this is what you're going to achieve from it. What is?
Strength, flexibility, muscle balance. We're all a little bit unbalanced, generally speaking, especially when you do sports. I mean, obviously you told me that you play a lot of hockey, and you can see that you've got a lot of strength in lots of areas of your body, but lots of areas where you need to find a bit more flexibility. So we're creating that balance between the two, which is why it's so great for sports people, athletes, dancers. Dancers always train Pilates because it really strengthens their core, and that's where everything kind of comes from. The strength should always come from the core first. If you've got a strong, stable core, then your limbs can just move a lot easier and freer. Balance, strength, flexibility. And it's a really mindful movement as well. Think so much and focus on what you're doing. You haven't got time to think about what's going on in the outside world. You're really immersed in your workout, in your body, and we're focused on our alignment, our technique throughout. So yeah, it's good stress relief.
And so how did Power Pilates UK come about?
So I trained in Pilates as a dancer. I did a dance degree many years ago. And I left, I taught Pilates, mat work Pilates for years, and I went off and I did lots of different things. I worked on TV and things, and then I came back to Pilates, I don't know, about 12 years ago so now, and I found Reformer. I'd never been on the Reformer before, and I remember going into a class where I was kind of like thinking about training, and I was like, hey, I've done Pilates for years, it's fine. And I went and I did this class, and I came out shaking, just like you boys did today. I was like, oh my God, that is a step up. I've never done that before. That is insane. So then I went and taught in London for a few years in a Reformer studio there, and then I moved to Beckenham, found a yoga studio just across the road, and found a small space and decided to open my own studio. So that was 7 years ago. And then I found this beautiful spot here, right on the high street, in lockdown.
And do you get many men coming into the classes?
Less. It definitely attracts women, especially because I've got quite a bit of pink in here. But we do get guys, but it's definitely less. I think they don't realise that it's going to be such a good workout. I think they think it's just going to be a little bit of stretching. And I always love it when guys come in and they get the shock of their life.
100%. I think more people need to see it, and I think that's what really it's kind of how do you get people interested in trying it out, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And telling them, like we were saying earlier, change that, a single training session out of being maybe a weight training, something like that, into being a reformer class, and actually doing it, because it is super intense. It is so hard on the core, my core's terrible, you're pretty good, but I find that really tough, and it's just,
Yeah, I also feel like it's quite complementary, because when you do a lot of either weight training or sports, or whatever it might be, then you start losing a lot of that flexibility, and as you say, you're not working everything, where it feels like when you're on one of these machines, you're really, I think my problem is I overcompensate in some areas and undercompensate in others, and I think that really fixes that problem.
It just makes, it makes you think about how you're moving, and you can apply what you do here in your Pilates class to everyday life, to other forms of exercise that you do. So I work out and I do weights at home, I do the Peloton, I like my treadmill, but I apply what I do here to those different techniques as well, because it really helps me keep a good form, good posture, helps me move more mindfully.
Can you talk a little bit about Pilates? I still don't really know what it is, to be honest. So how does it differ?
So there's a set amount of exercises in the classical mat work repertoire as well, just like there is on the Reformer. So you can do the classical mat work, which leads from one exercise straight into the other, and that would maybe take about 40 minutes or so to do, but it's quite hard, it's quite intense. So a lot of people again break it down and simplify some of the exercises. Again, what we do with Dynamic Pilates TV is we make the mat work classes dynamic, and we add other elements in there. So we do weight sessions, we use Pilates balls, we use booty bands, ankle weights, BOSUs, all kind of props, just to kind of give it a bit of variety as well, because I think when you're doing the same workout time and time again, the body just kind of tends to switch off a little bit. It's good to keep that variety in there, and we make them pretty tough as well.
I would say, for me, is my hips are really bad, my back. So I also look at this as kind of like a rehab thing. How does Reformer or mat Pilates play with rehabbing for injuries and stuff like that?
Well, I would say when you're doing rehab work, you tend to do more private classes, one-to-one classes, and work with trainers specifically on your specific needs and requirements, rather than because what we do here is a group class, and obviously it's a dynamic class anyway. But you can absolutely do rehab. It's amazing for rehab, and the exercise is just obviously broken down. They're slower. They're more focused on what you need. Yes, you can do rehab on the Reformer. Yes, you can do it at home on the mats, and there are some great exercises. Maybe we could do that another time.
Yeah, that's another So thanks, Korin, for the second episode of our recovery series. We'll be back with something else very soon, and look out for more.